Color. So sometimes we talk about color as hue. Hue just means name of color. Color is really the strongest of all design elements. We as humans react the strongest to color. Studies show that the reaction actually might be different between males and females. But we do know, and studies show us, that color does affect us emotionally. So different colors evoke different emotions, and color does have the capacity to affect the human nervous system. For instance, we know studies have shown that red increases our heart rate, increases our blood pressure. The combination colors, or we'll learn analogous colors of red and orange and yellow, really evoke hunger. They're the hungry colors. So there's a lot of really interesting research that has been done and continues to be done on color. We talk about color, we talk about saturation, and saturation is just that intensity or the purity of the color. And then we might talk about value, and value is lightness, darkness. Value becomes its own element by itself, just indicating lightness or darkness of the element of the composition, but in color it's the lightness, darkness of a color. Let's take a look at the color wheel. So as you look at this color wheel, this is the traditional color wheel, it's a 12-step color wheel. We have different color combinations, or called color harmonies, in which we create our compositions. So on the simplest is a monochromatic color scheme, or a monochromatic photo. And this is where we're using only one color, and that's the only color that's utilized along with the values. So you have various values of that color. Analogous color scheme. This is the color scheme where we pick colors that are right next to each other on the color wheel. So these colors get along. If you look at purple, and blue, or yellow, orange, and orange. On a very simple, if we were looking at just a 6-step color wheel, we would choose yellow, orange, and red. And that smaller color wheel might be easier for you as you're taking your photography, gives you a little bit larger range. So the analogous color schemes get along. They refer to as being harmonious. They create a soothing effect and are often used in visual design and in interior design. Complementary colors are colors that are directly opposite each other on the color wheel. So they're positioned across yellow and purple, red and green. So they exhibit a strong contrast when they are positioned next to each other in a photo or in a design. So what happens is one usually becomes more intense because they fight more. So yellow becomes more intense when it's positioned either right beside or on top of purple. We also cut the color wheel in half and have what's called warm colors and cool colors. So warm colors are the yellows, the oranges, the reds. Cool colors are then the purples, the blues, and the greens. Now those borderline colors where the cool colors meet the warm colors can be the transitional, and those can really be forced to go either way depending on what's surrounding it in the composition. So as a photographer, you can position different colors within your image, within your composition, to maximize contrast. You can play a lot with the psychology behind the colors that you choose. And also note that cool colors, those are the purples, blues, greens, they tend to recede into the distance, whereas the warm colors, the yellows, the reds, the orange, those tend to appear to advance. So that association and that psychological effects that we deal with in relation to color is a really important aspect. And as a photographer, you need to be aware of what is in that composition. What are you taking a photo of? Let's take a look at some examples of photography, specifically looking at the element of color. Here's a student example of an analogous color scheme. So when we look at this, the M&Ms there are yellow and orange. And so, if we had the yellow, orange, and red, that would be perfect. So there's an analogous limited color. This is an example of complementary. So if we look at the color wheel, we see that the colors that are across from one another produce a contrasting effect. So this is a bit subtle, but you can see that we've got the purples and blues with the oranges and yellows. And another example here, the tree frog that's on the broomstick that's red. So we've got the green with the red, and it really makes that green be more vibrant and the red be more vibrant. This is a creative example from a student and mixing the green apple with the red apple, and it makes that nice contrast. So again, it's interesting to look at. It makes those colors just seem to pop even more than if it was just a red apple and just a green apple.